So my new GTR has a lot of problems. One of those problems is oil consumption. The previous owner has and showed me the compression and leak down test for the engine. So the leak down test was fine. So I believe that means the rings are okay. So that leaves the next most likely culprit is that T8834D. So what I'm gonna do is what I think is the easiest way to check, which is I'm just gonna undo these couplers and look and see if it's super oily in there, because she vomits blue smoke under boost. So my guess is yes, there will be just a ton of oil in here. And you gotta appreciate how large the PCV hoses are. I mean, look at it. It's just insane. And I don't really know where the PCV valve itself is. It probably could be right there. Anyway, I'm gonna have to look. Or maybe it has two. Actually, it might have one for each side. That's a good point. Anyway, yeah. Let's undo this and find out. So I just have to share this. So if I haven't explained it before, this car was modified in Japan. This car was imported to the States in this basically exact condition, except this valve cover was not painted red, and neither was the Cusco, whatever, strut bar. Anyway, and it looks like both of these are doubled to be big enough to fit over the freaking intake manifold, which is just great. I started pulling it up, and it started pulling the hose up. I'm like, what do you mean? The only thing that should be pulling is right here. Well, no, there's two. So that's funny. So anyway, this bottom one still didn't come loose enough for me to get it free, but it's also very close to the oil cooler line right here. So we're gonna have to see. We may have to pull this whole pipe out to really see. And you can see there are three hiding down in there. That would be necessary to get it off. So I may have to try that. I may just have to try to take this pipe out instead. We'll have to see. All right, so to try to get a little bit more room, because of the way this oil cooler is run, I pulled the battery out. So it's just the battery and their nice little finisher bolt, and then of course the hanger from the other side. And so now I was able to get enough room to get these guys off. But I still need to loosen the bottom ones because I just don't get any movement out of any of this. So I think I'm just going to disconnect this whole pipe here because it looks like it has a fitting down there. So I should be able to get it out. It looks like I would have clearance. I just have to find my degrees of freedom where I can get it to start moving. Maybe spray some WD-40 or something down there to get it loosened up. We'll see. We can enjoy the wonderful HKS logo though. Anyway. I don't know if you guys can see this, but the coolant is like brown. It looks like it's only a little bit below the fill line. My number one question is it supposed to be brown looking? I'll see if I can get a light in there, but it really doesn't look like a color I've ever seen. I know there's red coolant, green, yellow. Well, okay, it is green. It just looks really dirty. It's hard to see. It does look green, I guess. Okay, well. Anyway. So, I was just saying, man, this hose is in my way. I wonder if I can move it to get some more clearance. And I pulled on it and it just came free. I mean, it didn't have any resistance at all. So my guess is that this is the version of venting the PCV system to atmosphere, and it was just dumped down here to just pour the oil out down there. So there's that. So it's funny because what that means is that I'm not burning oil from the PCV system because it's just purging that crap on its own. So there's that. Anyway, I guess I'll look. If I get this pipe off, I should probably be able to see down there and maybe be able to see where this was supposed to go, or if it was just, you know, going nowhere. But that's interesting. Well, I've got some goodish bad news. I got this pipe off, and it just looks, I mean, clean. I guess I would have expected to find some oil here. And this stuff looks wet, but I put some WD-40 on the coupler to try to get it off, which did work. I did get it off, but I expected oil here, and I don't really see it. And in one way, yay, that's good, but she definitely vomits oil when she hits boost. So I guess I'll have to look for I mean, you know, you would expect to maybe find some down here. But yeah, I would have thought if it's eating that much oil, I would see it here. I guess I'll check another intake pipe somewhere. It's just difficult to get to the rest of it. Maybe I'll have to take the front bumper off so I can get to the start of the intercooler. But anyway, that's not a super positive sign for turbo dead. So my buddy Kevin just gave a recommendation that I think might have some merit. And he said that I was sending them a video making fun of the fact that this was just buried in there. And he said, you know, that doesn't really look wet at all. And like when I put my finger in there, like it has like the smallest amount of residue, but it really doesn't look bad. And so he said, what if the valves are clogged? And so the pressure in the crankcase just builds and it pushes its way through anyway. Or that the oil is going out through the exhaust side of the turbo. But I feel like that's got some merit, and that's pretty easy to check, right? Like I can just pull these hoses off with these little clamps and I can check how wet they are, right? And then I can work my way back, and I mean, that system is all super accessible and easy to check, whereas checking the exhaust side of the turbo might be a little bit more difficult. So that's great. I'm gonna try that next, but that might be a problem for tomorrow. So after talking to another GTR owner, the next thing I wanted to look at that was pretty easy to check was the O2 sensor post-turbo. And you can see that it's pretty black and sooty, but it's not wet and oily. So yeah, we're burning oil, but it doesn't look like it's coming directly from the turbo outlet. Excuse me, the exhaust side turbo seals. It doesn't look like that based on this, which is chill in my opinion. So I'm gonna screw that back in for now, and then I'll put the wire back where it belongs, but I wanna get this thing back in its home first. And I'll have to tighten that down more than it is now. But yeah, so there's that. The next things I need to check are spark plugs, see if they're wet and oily, because they're relatively new, so it would be a really good comparison. And I was also told I might try to get a borescope and look at the turbine condition, and if that stuff looks wet and oily, which would also, you know, point to the turbo. But it would be really cool if this turbo doesn't have to be rebuilt, but it would be really bad if it meant the engine needed rebuilt, because that would be worse. But anyway, we'll see. The automotive archaeology. So I pulled off the intake tubing to get to the turbo, and I mean, it's pretty dirty. And if you look in there, there's a lot of black buildup up in there. So I think that's evidence of our turbo seals leaking. But you notice this pipe wiggles a lot. And I'm guessing that's its connection to the intercooler, which you can kind of see. But I decided I wanted to check all the connections, and I really want to take this hose clamp off, or hose clamp, silicone hose off, and see if this pipe is just coated in oil, because even this guy has some buildup, you know what I'm saying? And you can say, oh, that's dirt. Okay, sure, which is what I want to see post-turbo. And to get down there, I have to take the front bumper off, so I want to talk about how to take the front bumper off. There are 3 screws here. I saw in another video that these were Phillips heads for somebody, but for me, they're just plastic little clips. Then there are some clips or Phillips heads or whatever you're going to have. I think from the factory it's Phillips heads under the turn signals. So the turn signals, I already took them out. They're held in by one Phillips head screw up here at the top. They sit in here like this, and they have one wired connection for them. They also have a prong here and a pop prong here. So this one I was able to lift right out, but on the other side I had to apply a little bit of force, but I was careful and it doesn't look like I marked anything up, so yay me. You can see the cables just is run up in here and hangs out. So there are also 3 screws, or in my case 10mm bolts, that are up under here. There are 3 of them. I hope you can see them. And then the brake ducts on this little lip, they have attachment screws as well. And then I don't have my light. There's an attachment screw up in here, right here where my finger points up. You'll feel it. And I need to do some investigation to figure out if there's anything else, but that's what I found so far. So I'm gonna pull those out. I may have to jack the front end up a little bit to get some height, because there's not a lot of height right now. But anyway, I'll report back when I'm sure if there's anything else that needs to come off. I think that's gonna just about be it. And then I'll get to check the whole front of the intercooler system from where it goes underneath to where it comes back up. And then I'll be able to say I've looked at all the pipes and I can, you know, hopefully diagnose my boost leak and if the turbo is burning oil. Okay, so real quick, there will also be bolts up under here, but mine are gone. Well, this one is missing. And this one has a vent here because the oil cooler is stuck behind this thing. So I don't have either of those. There can also be, if you don't have a massive intercooler here, there can be another metal bracket here. And when you take this guy off, there can be another metal bracket hiding underneath. But I don't have any of those problems. Then, oh man, it's gonna be hard to get the camera under here. Underneath, there should be 1, 2, and 3 back this way in the center. And then there are 2 here for this, and 3 up under here along the way leading to the wheel. So those are the additionals, and then she should be good to come off. So I'm gonna work on that. I'm gonna try to do it without jacking it up and putting it on ramps, but we'll see if I have to. And there she is. The bumper's off. She's over there. That was a little scary. First time I've ever taken the bumper off. I mean, I know it's kind of beat up, but anyway, it's off. It came off fine. It was missing a lot of these screws on the other side. When I'm done and I want to button this thing up for good, I think it gets zip ties. I think zip ties will be the clue. Hey, look, the blow-off valve is hiding in here. Well, that's cool. This archaeology stuff's kind of fun, isn't it? Just a little bit. Oh, the oil cooler actually looks pretty good too, honestly. Some ducting. Someone cared. You know, someone tried. I appreciate it. All right, time to look at this hoses. All right, everybody, here we go. So I pulled off all of the intake tubing, which I think I've said before, but I want to make sure I don't miss anything. And when I look in here and I look at these pipes, I don't see any oil in them. I don't see any oil at all. I see a little bit of this streaking, but I don't see standing oil. Sorry, it may be hard to get. You may not be able to see it at all. And all the pipes and couplers appear to be in good shape. So I'm developing a theory. And my theory that I'm developing is that maybe I don't have a boost leak. And if the turbo's burning oil, it's burning it on the hot side. Or maybe something wrong with the PCV system is causing me to burn oil. Because if this PCV system is clogged, you'll notice when I pull this hose off. Come here. It's bone dry. Absolutely bone dry. Which, if I expect this engine to consume as much oil as it does, I would expect to find something. So I'm starting to wonder if these valves are clogged. I'll check that other one too, but anyway, bone dry. The other thing that I was thinking regarding what I think is a boost leak is, so the AFR gauge up in there doesn't work. And pretty sure this is the AFR wire. And so my first thought is I'm wondering if this AFR sensor is functioning correctly, if the ECU actually has AFR. Because if it doesn't, I would imagine that it might run okay for a while, but when it went under boost, it might freak out and not run very good. And that may be the problem we're having. But we'll have to find out. I have now undone and retightened every single clamp in the system from here to the intercooler to here where it goes up. Actually, I haven't wrenched down on these guys yet, so technically I still need to do those, but there they are. And then this pipe goes into there, and then it comes up into here. And so all of this looks fine. All this looks great. I don't think any of these are my problem. And then it makes it to here, and then it's in the intake manifold. So I guess if there's a crack in there somewhere, I don't know. But anyway, I'm not really seeing where I think the boost leak could be. And since I don't have an air compressor with me right now, I can't really do a boost leak test. So I'm gonna put it all back together and I'm gonna let it run. And I'm also gonna check if the AFR sensor is like working correctly, because that could be my culprit, which would be really, really cool. I did a once over of all of the boost lines and where they're run, and they all appear to be correct and they all appear to work. So just as a refresher, I was looking at the boost lines and where they all run, and I have a little bit of curiosity about how this part is set up. But basically this hose trees off here, and one of it goes to a manifold map sensor, which I'm not really sure what it's being used for, because it's not really on the map, but it is a map sensor. I believe it is a 1.9 bar sensor, and we can see this hose also runs into there. So I imagine it's the hose that we see up in there. I imagine it's the actual boost pressure hose. That's my guess. I'm not 100% sure on that. Here we can see the Apexi boost controller. So you can see both lines are run back to the other side towards the wastegate. So there you go, there's that, and here's the control wiring for that. So anyway, you can see all that. You can see here we have our oil. I don't know which is which. If we follow the gauges, they have different cabling, but we have our oil, say, temperature and oil pressure lines right here. So they're run to this, which is nicely, I mean, it's at least bracketed. And so is the map, and so is the boost pressure sensor. They're all bracketed to something. So yeah, that's pretty much it. And it looks like the evap canister has extra wires on it, but it looks connected. Doesn't seem to have any problems, at least not yet. I think my overall analysis about this car so far is that someone cared. Like, whoever built it tried, you know? Like, if we look at the custom oil cooler that they made, you know, they made a shroud for it. They didn't just screw it in here. Like, yeah, they cut out some of the crash support so they could get more air to their intercooler, and maybe that should bother me, but when I look at the car as a whole, it looks like somebody tried to make it good and not just treated it like shit. So that's pretty cool, I guess. I'm pretty happy about that. Still think the turbo's too big. But anyway, I'm gonna start putting all the intake piping back together here and checking all the connections again. And obviously at some point, if I still have issues, I'll just pull the intake side stuff off again and do my boost leak test when I find somebody who has an oil or an air compressor that I can use. And then, yeah, like I said, my next step is I'm going to troubleshoot this AFR reading, because you see this line here. I think this is the sensor that's being used as AFR. We can see this cable runs here to this set of clips, and you can see that there's two different ones here. This one only really has a black wire on it. The other ones have been cut. So I'm almost thinking that's like the stock one and that this one is not. Actually, no, they're both part of the stock harness. Well, anyway, I'm not really sure, but you can see these wires, the red, the white, and the black here. And then it runs to the other side here, and then we have this other guy spitting off on his own, and he goes inside. And then we also have this guy over here, and I'm assuming this is exhaust temperature. It's right where the collector meets the turbo. And so that would be an ideal place. It looks like a thermocouple wire, and it also disappears up into there. And the gauge on the very left, I don't know, or sorry, my right, left if you're in the driver's seat, is exhaust temperature, an aftermarket one. So I think that that is this thermocouple right here. So anyway, that's, I mean, honestly, I think that's a good sign that is correctly run and appears to be functioning. So anyway, looks like it's pretty well sorted, to be honest with you. It'd be really convenient if there was just a break in the solder joints right here. And that's why that AFR wasn't working. That would be like the world's coolest thing, because that would be like very low effort and very easy to troubleshoot. So earlier I was commenting on how this, these clamps were really jank because they're in two sections. But now I realize, after putting this back together, but the reason it's so jank is to fit this guy down here. So this is a silicone connector that's over a hose, or that comes through the firewall. It's hard to see, but up here, oh, that's super dark. Hold on. So up here, there's a connector. So you can see this piece of silicone here, right? And it goes onto a connector, which is literally a hard metal pipe that goes through into the engine bay. And that silicone connector is on the other end of that pipe. So the reason that these clamps, I assume, the reason that these clamps are jank like this and done in 2 parts is because you have to do it that way, because I spent the last like 20 minutes trying to finagle this hose into place with these silicone clamps on it. And the only way I could do it was with this guy just completely unbounded. You know what I'm saying? Just complete free motion. And there were so many clamps in the way and whatever. So clearly, I'll just have to undo this, slide it around, do that for the other 3, and then that part will be good again. So I can totally see there being a potential boost leak down there. It's pretty hard to see, but I felt it, and it feels good and tight. And I know I have a clamp on each side for sure, and that clamp in the middle is there because it's there. It was there, and I can't imagine it hurting anything, so it's there again. But anyway, just wanted to share that. I'm reassembling all the intercooler piping, or whatever, the cold side piping right now. So I wanted to show you guys this because I thought it was really cool. I was just cleaning this pipe up because I wanted it to look a little bit nicer. And when I took off this coupler, I noticed, oh, here, the light's really dark. You see how this has been ground down? So what it looks like to me is that this never had a lip on it at all. Like this side, you see how there was like a machined lip? But the previous owner in Japan had an issue with this pipe blowing off, and so he's like, okay, how can I fix this? And he said, well, I need to add a lip so the clip can't slip off. So this is another piece of evidence that shows me that I think someone cared about this car and tried to build it right at some point, which I really appreciate, and I just thought was really cool. So I thought I'd share it. Okay, so all the clamps are tight. If I had to guess, this is gonna be where my problem child is, if I have one. This connection just doesn't want to line up perfectly. I feel like if you did enough finessing, you could probably, you know, loosen this, loosen that, wiggle them all till they come together. But they came together well enough. But this ring clamp here, this one closest to the red pipe, is rusty. And so the nut is starting to break down, or the bolt is starting to break down. But for now, I'm going to leave it. It felt tight. I can't wiggle the pipe anymore. If you noticed before, this guy had like a lot of wiggle to him, and now I'm shaking the whole freaking car to wiggle him. So I feel better about that. Maybe that's what it was. I'm not sure. But anyway, that's pretty much it for under here. I don't know if I'm just going to leave the bumper off because I'm expecting to do the trans oil tomorrow. Yeah, I might just leave it off for the night. But I think we're done. Maybe I'll drop the battery back in so the engine bay is all... Actually, yeah, I'll put the intakes on, which are over there. I'll drop the battery back in so the engine bay is all sorted. And then that'll be where I call it for the night, I think. And then tomorrow is trans fluid, and then we'll fire her up again and see if she runs any better. Shifts any better. You know what I meant. So that's it for the night. She's all put back together. The whole front bumper is reattached. Sorry my light died. Well, both of my batteries died. But that's where we're going to leave it for the night. Hopefully tightening all those things fixed any potential boost leaks. Maybe not. I didn't get to checking the AFR gauge, so I'll look at that maybe tomorrow. My main goal for tomorrow is to put this thing on 4 jack stands and change the trans fluid and see if that helps it shift any better. And then tomorrow we're going to go for a test drive. After I'm done with that, assuming the oil gets here, gear oil, whatever. So I'll be sure to film that. Thanks for watching.